Hello and welcome, genties and ladlemen. It is, in fact, your boy, Sir Egward, and welcome to episode 23 of Cracking the Shell. As you all know, this is the podcast where I go behind the scenes of all the guys, gals, non-binary pals in the Glasgow and wider Scottish and UK metal scene, and we just chat shit and learn about all the people in the bands that we love. And in today's episode, we've got the almighty Ross Dunn of Rancid, Cadaver, and Fatal Collision. Ross, how is it going, sir?
I'm doing very well, Mr. Exwood. Thank you very much for having me. Really happy to be here. How are you, mate?
I'm doing very well. You were somebody that, when I was thinking about the first people that I wanted to have on this, absolutely you were the top people, and I'm very glad that we
Oh,
were able to make it happen, you know. It
yeah,
sucks. It sucks being an adult.
I know, like just with work and all that. And as you mentioned, I'm in two bands, so like, and both of us are like quite busy at the moment, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
yeah, no, better late than never, as they say. And yeah, really happy to see that the following's been built up a lot as well. So I'm very excited, man.
I'm excited as well. As a lot of people know, before we get into what you're doing now and everything that's to come in the future, because Lord knows there's a lot to come from this man in the future, I like to wind the clock back a wee bit and figure out how exactly did we get here? Let's talk about kind of you growing up, finding music, finding metal, because we are a similar age group, and
Mhm.
just like everything that happened in the before times, before Rancid Cadaver, before Fatal Collision, that kind of thing.
Sounds good. So basically, my origin story, if you will. I guess from a very young age, I was always like, I always had like a very musical sort of driven mindset, and I think my parents realised that as well. Just a side note, by the way, I'm probably going to mention my parents a lot because they've been very influential and helpful with like they've always seen like my love and passion for music, and they've always helped out in every way that they can. So eternal gratitude for them. So very happy with that. But yeah, no, so just always as a kid singing about in the house. I think the first band that I was properly like obsessed with was Busted because I just found them very cool, like with the guitars and all that. First gig, first ever concert was Busted at the SECC in 2004. I was like six. And then a month later, they broke up.
Incredible.
Well,
Oh, I've seen
the
this
first
band,
time
I'm
that
in love with them, and next thing you know, nope, they're gone.
exactly.
Love
And
it.
I don't remember much of the gig. Probably the only thing I remember was maybe being scared of the pyro. This was before Rammstein set the roof of the SECC on fire and caused them to ban pyro from that venue, or arena, I should say.
Well, at least they learned their
But
lesson, eh?
oh God, tell me about it. To be fair, the roof's not really big enough for pyro in there anyway. I don't think. But I digress. But funnily enough, going off of that, obviously Charlie Simpson went on to form Fight Star. And I think that was my kind of introduction to heavy music. It's the first time I've heard like screaming and stuff on songs and like heavy distorted guitars. And like I seem to remember seeing Slipknot on the telly one time, but I've never really paid attention. But no, Fight Star was like my first time hearing that stuff, and I was kind of like, oh, like this is like because obviously I'm just like, oh, it's went from pop to rock because I didn't really know the difference, of course. But yeah, no, just as I was kind of going over the years, just kind of getting more and more into like different types of music. I was always a very musical person, like I said. Like obviously, The Darkness was another one that I like liked back in the day. Love Queen, um, and then yeah, just like I'd always like heard of bands like Linkin Park and stuff, and then just hearing stuff from like video game soundtracks like Tony Hawk's Underground 2 and SmackDown versus Raw. Started getting into pro wrestling back in that time as well, and then it was just obviously all the bands that had the pay-per-view theme songs like Limp Bizkit and Saliva and Drowning Pool and stuff like that. But it was always kind of just like, oh, this is just like sort of rock music. This is just, it was always kind of a casual sort of thing. I never really dived into like the metal like universe, but that all changed. And I still remember this day very well. It was 2008. Excuse me. We were in HMV at Braehead. Uh, Me, my parents, and my younger brother. And I think we were going to go buy a video game. I think it was Grand Theft Auto. So I think it only came out just recently. But we seen somebody in the store playing Guitar Hero 3 with like the controller and stuff. And me and my brother were just kind of like, oh my God. Because we'd seen like adverts, but we never like actually seen somebody play it in person. And we were just kind of like
I
I think
want
I was like
that.
nine. Yeah, I think I was like
I want
nine by
that.
this point. I was like 9 by this point. And again, like I mentioned, my parents, because they knew that I loved like music and stuff, they seen it and they were like, do you guys want to get that? And we were just like, yeah, yeah.
Please, please.
And then we bought it, installed it that night, and like we played it. Like even my dad liked playing the game. But yeah, and obviously the soundtrack in that game, especially when you get to like the level where you're like dueling with the devil, that had like I think it had like Slayer and Metallica, I think, was one of them. But then like levels before it had like Slipknot and Disturbed and all that. And I think that was when the ball really started rolling with me getting into metal. So I was starting to listen to bands like Slayer, Slipknot, the classic ones, Trivium, Bullet, Killswitch Engage. I'm trying to think who else. And also like watching Kerrang and Scuzz and like hearing about all these bands. Uh, Pretty much the origin story of a lot of people our age. Um, cool wrestling, cool video games, pro wrestling, Kerrang and Scuzz, and off to the races from there. And obviously, my music taste has kind of varied in some way, shape, or form over the years. Like my teenage years, like early teens, it was more like the kind of metalcore sort of side of things that was like popular at the time. And then it would go on and evolve to like, I guess, more not traditional metal, but like more sort of like the thrash metal, the death metal, melodic death metal, that kind of stuff. And then obviously as you get older, you meet more people, you start to hear new things, and then that's when I was discovering like hardcore and stuff like that as well. And it kind of over the course of like from like 2008 till like even just now, it's like just this big sort of melting pot. Um, of course, it's not just metal. Like in the last like I want to say 10 years, I've been getting into like other genres outside of the metal realm. Like I'm a massive, like anyone who knows me personally, I'm a massive like shoegaze fan. I love like post rock, progressive rock, like ambient electronic, like all that kind of stuff. Like folk music as well, like the neo folk sort of sound and stuff.
Mhm.
I like that as well, especially if it's mixed in with like metal as well. Like that's really like it's a good one for me.
Folk metal is
Um,
balling. Folk metal is
oh
absolutely
yeah,
balling.
I've not listened to a lot of it in like a while, but whenever it's on, I do remember, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I forget like this stuff is actually really fun. Like like I was at Bloodstock this year, and Copper played. I didn't watch them, but I was like tempted. I was kind of like, oh, maybe I should go, but you know what it's like. You're at the campsite, and all you want to do is just drink and hang out with your mates.
That's what they're for, aren't
Uh,
they?
exactly. But no, that's pretty much my sort of origin story. In a nutshell, Kerrang and Scots, pro wrestling, video games, and then it just amalgamated and just here we are.
Yeah, it just kind of explodes from there. This was back when Kerrang actually meant something and it actually had
Exactly.
music. It's when the M in MTV was music television instead of,
Yeah.
let's watch something else in television.
Just like, television.
It's kind of, no, really.
I get, I guess there's music in these shows.
It's not good, but it's there. It's
Like
like
every
Domino's
reality.
Pizza. It's not good, but it's there. Team
To be
Pizza Hut
fair,
for life, by the way.
no, to be fair, don't get me wrong, love Pizza Hut, but I'm a Domino's lifer, man. Like I love the stuff.
I got no
Um,
hate for Domino's, but so getting into all this music, at what point did you think I want to actually play it? Not just go to shows and be in the audience, but when did you actually want to pick up an instrument?
I kind of so I kind of always had that in my head. Like I always wanted to be in bands and that. And then when you're younger, you're obviously like you meet like-minded people. You're like, oh, we should start a band. And then you just like go to like the practice room in your school. like twice and then nothing ever comes of it. Or, you say, well, you do one practice and that's pretty much it. It just fizzles out. Um, but yeah, I've always had that in my head. Like I became a bass player properly when I was about 14, I think. When I was 14, that's when I decided, oh, I want to be a bass player because I heard Cannibal Corpse properly for the first time. And for anyone who knows, it's the hammer smashed bass solo. I'd never heard bass played like that before, so that just immediately like unlocked my mind, and I was like, I want to do that. And also at the time, a lot of people I knew were like guitarists. I didn't really know a lot of bass players, so in my head, I was kind of like, I'm gonna go against the grain a wee bit. I'm gonna go play bass.
Look at him
Um,
sticking out, you know? He's
I
just got to
know
be different. He's got to be different. It's like
somebody's
that
got to do
now.
it.
It's like that now. Everybody's a guitar player, everybody's a singer, everybody's a drummer, but you never really hear of a lot of bassists in the scene. It's literally, I think, you and Jordan. That's it.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong, like there is a good few bass players out there, like and I've seen Jordan's like podcast he did with you, and he's alluded
Mm.
to it as well. Like there's Chris Ryan, Ali for Tyrannus,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Billy from Disposable. He's doing the bass and vocal thing with like as well. There is a pool out there for like bass players. But yeah, like as you mentioned, like it's as much as it's like there are bass players, there are way more guitar players. If anything, I feel like the drummer is kind of the rarity in all of this
That's kind of
because
true, actually.
anyone that's been in a band knows how fucking difficult it is to find a drummer sometimes.
That's why they usually just end up getting Oscar to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, 2 secs. I don't know if my Bluetooth. Oh, what's happening here? Sorry, I wasn't sure if my earphones cut off there.
No, you're all right. You're
Um,
good, man.
all right, okay. Um, should be okay. Um, yeah. I like being a bassist. To be fair, I've always, again, the parents, they've always been instrumental with helping me out with like music. So they've like bought me instruments and stuff before. So I've like always kind of like been a bit self-taught. Done piano lessons and stuff as well, and like obviously done music in school. Um, so can't complain too much. With their input as well. Like very grateful. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what better way to end it? It's definitely cool to hear that, like you and a lot of other people in the scene have had parents that are very supportive and are actually pushing you to do something creative. I never really had that. I've never really had a musically inclined family. Nobody's playing in bands. Nobody's even really played an instrument. So I just kind of had to find all this shit myself. Like it started off with like your
Mhm.
Disturbed, your Linkin Park and all that, and just kind of I don't know how but spiraled. It actually popped up on my Facebook wall one day from a couple of years ago. I was wishing the only other metalhead in the family is my uncle was wishing him happy birthday, and then he was saying thank you and stuff, and then he looked through all the gig photos I've been posting, and it's like, what the fuck happened to your taste in music? And I'm going, I don't know. I just hear
It's like
shit and I like it. It's weird. Going
it's
from
funny. It's
corn
funny you
and
mention that as well because like I'm like the only besides apart from like my granddad, I'm like the only like musically inclined person in my family. I'm definitely the only person in my family and like my extended family that listen to metal.
I
Um,
think in terms of the extreme stuff, it's definitely me that's the only one that goes like far out there. Like my uncle
mhm.
likes all the classic stuff, your Black Sabbath, your Iron Maidens. He did end up discovering stuff like Trivium and I mean as much as they're cringe, Five Finger Death Punch. So
Yeah,
it's props, you know, it's something. It's better than just, oh, I like one Black Sabbath record and that's it.
yeah, no, exactly. At least he's like actually like he's found bands that he's like invested in and stuff. And yeah, there is like a good. I mean, I totally get it. I totally get why people aren't really into metal or can't get into metal or like they hear the whole like oh it's just noising because it is for like a casual observer it is a lot coming at you at the one time like heavy distorted guitars, fast drums, some guy just shouting his head off like it's a lot to take in at the one time. So I could totally get why people would be put off by it.
I think
Um,
everybody, when they first discovered it, they kind of felt the same way, but then it's like you get past that, I suppose, initial fear of it, and then you start diving into it and you go, actually, this is fucking sick. I'm going
yeah,
to make this my entire personality.
yeah, there's the curiosity of it all. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like watching horror movies as well. Like traditional, I guess, general consensus would be like, oh, I don't want to watch this, but like there's that morbid curiosity of like kind of like feeling a little bit of fear and just being a bit like, oh, I'm on edge. And it's the adrenaline that comes with it as well. Like I'm not even a big horror fan as well. I like some movies, but like I'm not like a pure massive horror buff like a lot of people I know are.
Mhm.
Um, but it's kind of, and it's the same with metal. It's like it's that adrenaline. Like even when I go to gigs, like now, I still get that like feeling like, oh, like this could kick
Shit could
off.
just erupt at any moment. Yeah. I mean, case
Yeah,
in point,
especially I feel like
Hellripper,
now,
prime example. Shit just kicked
yeah,
off from the
exactly.
off. It was insane.
Oh man, like every time I've seen that band, they've just absolutely killed it. And like I'm happy to say like they're all like mates of mine now as well. So yeah, all the success in the world for those guys. I love those guys.
Definitely. Hellripper, Party Cannon. There's a lot of bands that have kind of broken out of just playing the UK, and I'm really stoked, and I hope that happens to more bands here because, and I've said this to a bunch of people, and I mentioned it, I think, in the Coffin Mulch episode, that I genuinely hope that we're able to kind of support these bands and push them to pursue this properly and not just like do the odd gig on a Friday night or whatever, but really push themselves out there. Like I know Rancid Cadaver started playing shows up and down the country, and I fully have faith that it's going to extend to who knows, me even stuff like the rest of Europe and Christ knows it's as far as you want to take it. And I fully have faith that you can do it.
I really appreciate it, man. Like we really do appreciate it. Like yourself and like other people that have been like supporting us from day one. Like it never goes unnoticed. It always means the world to us, and I can speak for the guys when I say that. And like you says, like that's what we're hoping to do as well. Like we're hoping to like push the boat out here because we still find it crazy that we have people that buy stuff on our band. Like we've sent stuff to America before. Like we've got like people that like have done reviews of our stuff like from America and stuff. And it's like this is crazy. Like even when we were in the Metalhead box, because I'd heard of the Metalhead box like 10 years ago, and then they approached us being like, "Oh, do you want to be in the Metalhead box? Like you just want to do like a release like for it, a compilation for it?" And we were just like, "Yes." Like that
Yeah,
is
duh.
such a big opportunity. Like it's that's mind blowing to me.
You deserve it because, and I've said this since I first discovered you, it's that band where you know when you have a sound in your head and you have a band that fits exactly that. Rancid Cadaver was that because I love my death metal sludgy. I like it doomy. I like it utterly disgusting, but still insanely catchy. I mean, case in
Yeah.
point, the new tune that he's played at the Vacuous show, which is actually where this photo behind me came from. I found this while reading a review of the Vacuous show that you played with the Iniquitous Savagery, and I was scrolling through
Yeah.
all the shots and stuff, and they actually captured when we were in the middle of the zombie pit, and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm making that shit my desktop background
Oh
because
man, I
that
was
shit's
wondering what that
balling.
photo was actually, like when I came on. That is amazing, man. Yeah, the guys were like that to me. Oh, you need to ask them to do the zombie disco mosh and then like demonstrate it. And that, yeah, that was their first time playing that song live, slurping the cerebral slime. Um,
Amazing
which
song
will be on
title.
the which will be on the upcoming release
I like how you said
whenever
release
that may
there.
come out.
It could. I like how you said release. It could be an EP. It could be an album. It could be a fucking progressive double album. We don't know. Here's
Exactly.
70 odd minutes of death metal, which I'm game for. I'm just
It's like
saying.
we done Ricky of Moshville Times. Shout out to Ricky. We done his podcast a while back, and he was trying to get it out of us, and we were just like not letting him have it. We were just like, no, no, you're just going to find out. So we're quite secretive with stuff like this, just because we want it to like we want it to have an impact when it comes out. Do you know what I mean?
No, definitely. And when you put out Massive Gore earlier this year, which is your recorded debut, because I know you've been playing vocals with them for over a year, I think that point. It definitely hit different than it did the first EP, and I fell in love immediately.
Oh, thanks, man. Like. At first I was kind of like, oh, should we? Like, I don't want to just release stuff for the sake of it and it not being like up to scratch or whatever, but it was absolutely the right decision. And that's why like I trust I trust Connor, Ali, and Higgy. Like, I trust their judgment a lot, and I know that inevitably whatever decision the band comes to is going to be the right one. So I've got good faith in those three guys because they keep the Cadaver train fucking rolling. Honestly, like it cannot be understated how hardworking those three guys are, and I'm like honored to be in a band with them.
Well, you know what they say, you can't have a good train without a good conductor, and you have one of the best stage presences on the planet.
Oh, wow. You think so?
Genuinely, honestly, I've seen a lot of frontmen, and don't get me wrong, they've been good, but two frontmen that always stick out to me are yourself and Johannes Eckerstrom from Avazar. Just because you can command a crowd, they are eating at the palm of your hands from the first fucking note. And
Oh
you
man,
two are the only two people that have done that, at least in my opinion.
oh man, like that's huge praise, man. Honestly, thank you so much for that. It's like I don't really think about it a lot when I'm on stage. Like I just whatever I feel like is the right thing to do in that moment. I just if I'm feeling it, like I'll just like and it even with the silly stuff, like the pure using my bass like a gunshot, or even with like the I'm trying to be pure big, tough and menacing and all that. Like I remember one that I done was when we played with Beetlejuice in Glasgow, like we were coming on or we were about to start and like the feedback of the guitar started ringing and I just like walked to like the front of the stage and I just like stared at everyone. Like I was just like and like seeing how hype like seeing the sort of gradual slow build of like energy and tension and all that just from me like standing there was like I was just like, yeah, let's fucking do this, man.
It's big Devon Swank energy, isn't it?
Oh
Just
yeah,
big
like
fucking brick shit house. You know?
yeah, it's
I
just
love
it's
that shit.
but like I've not got his build though. Like he's just like you're doing whatever that guy fucking tells you to do. If he's telling you to move, you're moving.
Oh,
And
I
I've not seen
definitely.
Sanguisugabog yet, so
You will absolutely not regret it. I saw them back in February with Suffocation, and holy shit. I'm so glad I
um,
did. I wanted to see them for ages, and I'm so glad they came. But he's got that same kind of frontman mindset where he can command a crowd. It's like you just, like before Dead as Shit, he just goes, "This one is dedicated to the Queen of England. It's called Dead as Shit." Just shit
brilliant.
like that, and you're brilliant at that. It's like at the Vacuous show that I mentioned earlier. You introduce bog rot. It's like, this is what happened when I was in the toilet earlier. This is called bog rot.
It's like yeah, it's like I guess like that's like a blessing and a curse as well. Like where I can still be like the serious front man, but I can like turn it around on a dime like that and still be quite humorous, I guess. It's still something I'm like working on, like, there's always room for improvement with stuff like that. And like, especially if you're like I guess the focal point of the band in the sense of like, I'm like the vocalist and stuff, but that's the good thing about Cadaver as well. It's like each member has like their own individual, like, the reason Cadaver works is because of the people that's in it. Like, Higgy and Ali are two excellent guitarists, and I will put them up against anyone in terms of like dual guitarists. Connor, incredible drummer, one of the best drummers in this scene, as far as I'm concerned. And I think I'm all right at bass as well.
See, not only is he an excellent front man, he's also humble. Look at that, gentlemen. Look at that, genties and laymen. He's not only incredibly talented and handsome, but he's also very humble. And that's what we need in a front man. And Rancid Cadaver absolutely has that in spades. And speaking of Rancid Cadaver, because I'm very good at segues, I'd like to hear about, because obviously you guys have been on the go since about 2021. I'd like
Yeah,
to hear about how you all kind of met and just kind of suppose a very brief, condensed history up to where we are now.
yeah, sounds good. So the band started through Higgy and Lee, because they were like really good friends. I mean, I say were they are really good friends. Um, I think it was like I mean, obviously, I feel like a lot of the new Scottish death metal bands, it's all had the same thing, lockdown. Um, they were both in bands, but I think they both wanted to kind of do something a bit different. Um, and then I seen Higgy put on Instagram because I've been friends with both of them for years as well. I'd seen both of their bands, and like I've played shows with obviously with Fatal as well. We've shared lineups. But I seen Higgy was like, "Oh, bassists and drummers like hit me up." So I was like, "I'm a bassist. I'm gonna hit him up." Um, and he was like telling me like, excuse me, he was saying to me, "Oh yeah, me and Lee are like thinking about starting this new project." And he sent me like a demo that he had. And I was like, "Oh, that sounds good." And truthfully, like that sort of like old school death metal sound, like I love it, but like I wasn't like listening to it as much back then as I do now,
Mhm.
which is a big benefit of being in Cadaver because it's definitely made me appreciate that style of death metal a lot more. Not that I didn't before, but like I listened to it a hell of a lot more than I did a few years ago. So I was just like, yeah, I mean, consider my name in the hat for bass. And then from there, once restrictions started to get lifted a bit, we're like looking at like other members or like potentially other members. And Lee was in Vass, of course, rest in peace. And we were talking about getting a second guitarist, and Lee was like, "Oh man, I might ask Ali if he wants to do it." Um, and Ali was up for it, and then Lee was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna ask Connor if he wants to do the drums as well." And Connor was up for it. So there was like a brief 2 week period where Vass and Cadaver both existed at the same time. But we didn't like announce the band until after Vass had already broke up. Um, but yeah, so it would have been interesting to see how that would have been in a world where both of our bands existed in harmony.
On top
Um,
of Fatal Collision as well, so you'd have been in fucking three bands, and it's like it's hard enough now with two.
well, I think like Vass had their lineup as well. Mark and Danny were like in the band as well. But yeah, so that was it. And then obviously, I think I think Higgy might have known Connor and Ali before like they joined the band. But it was like, I think the band definitely made us all closer as friends. Um, and as restrictions were coming, getting lifted, we were like practicing more, starting to like Flesh Monstrosity is definitely like a product of its time. Like that's still us kind of discovering what works, what doesn't work. Like what's I guess the Cadaver sound, and we've found it now, which everyone will hear in due time. Um, yeah, just that's pretty much the origin of that. And then yeah, as the years go on, we've just been closer, closer than ever. Some of my dearest friends in the world. Being again, I said before, being in a band with them is amazing. Even when Lee was in the band as well, like that was kind of another good thing about us being like such a tight knit like friendship group as well. Like,
Mhm.
because you know what it can be like if you bring somebody else into the fold, it can be a bit, oh, I don't know, like it doesn't really work sometimes. So that when we left, that was like one of the reasons why I was kind of like, maybe I could give vocals a go, like because I could like do them, but I was never like confident in myself as a vocalist, and I was kind of like, oh, I'll give it a go. Worst that can happen is it just doesn't work. Went in and practiced one time, and yeah, they were just like, "Holy shit, Ross, how are you doing that?" And I'm like, "I don't know." It literally just happened. And then they were just like, "No, you're doing vocals now." So we just continued as a four piece, and yeah, I don't think that's going to change because it doesn't. It's not broken. Like it
Ah,
doesn't need to change.
you don't need it. I honestly, as a fan, I don't think you need it. And if Massive Gore is anything to go by, then I think it's going to be genuinely better moving forward.
Yeah, like the response, like because like as well, like obviously we've spoke about like the commanding frontman presence and stuff, and like Lee, when he was the front man in Cadaver and in Vass as well, like he certainly had a presence about him, just this big, tall, jacked fucking dude, like shouting in your face and stuff. And it's like, oh man, how is this going to work? Like, how am I going to like match up to that standard and also, match the standard that I set myself for like the bass playing and stuff like that as well. But, 2.5 years on now, it seems to be going well.
See, again, he's humble. I see, so humble. But honestly, I think you've been killing it because I remember the first time I saw Rancid Cadaver, it was at the Left Eye show, which already is you've got such an impressive headliner already, with
Yeah,
members of Exhumed, Massacre, and Obituary all playing Death's best work. It's like,
it's crazy.
how do you support that? How do you hype up the audience for that? And I'm fairly sure the show was either nearly sold out or it was sold out in the end. And you guys in Aphotic really helped cement me kind of finding everything that was happening on my own doorstep. I say doorstep, I don't live in Glasgow, but
Mhm.
it wasn't until I would say that show where I was like, I need to see what other shit's going on here because I had found Brain Bath back in 2022 when they played with Eternal Champion, which is still a mind-blowing show because it's like,
Yeah,
here's this epic heavy metal band, and then here's Pure Autopsy Worship on the same bill. And that's something I hope to see in the future. I'd love to see a fucking like Manowar style band playing with some old school death metal, throwing some hardcore in there just because why the fuck not? There's some.
that's that's something that I always try and like champion is mixed bills because mixed bills obviously it can only work to like a certain extent, but when it works, it is like brilliant.
Oh, it
Because
is.
like, don't get me wrong, I love death metal, I love blast beats, but it's like hearing like a five band bill of all of that. Sometimes it can maybe be a bit like
Oh,
having
I.
like one band in there just to like break things up. Like we played with we done Vulgarfest down in Hartlepool earlier this year. Our friends in Vulgar Dissection were running it. And it was like it was like a nice sort of variation of death metal. Like there was like progressive death metal, there was the slam stuff. Obviously, we brought like the sort of old school influence. But then Hellfect played, and they had like a very sort of thrashy sort of sound to it, and it definitely like broke up the day. Like hearing just fast. I think they played in standard tuning, like standard tuning, Marshall amps. Just hearing like that kind of sound
You
definitely
can't
broke it
beat
up.
that sound
And
though. You can't beat that sound.
oh no, definitely not, man. Like one of my favorite bands ever is Thylosis, and like even though Josh Middleton has said like, oh, I don't really like the tone of like those albums like Edge of the Earth and Monolith and all that. They're some of my favorite albums. Like that's some of my favorite music. Just period. Like everything I write for like Fatal Collision, like Silosis is the foundation of.
We're going to get proggy up in here, boys. Get some prog thrash going.
Oh
How
yeah,
it's kind of interesting because like progressive music and then crossover music, it's so like dynamically opposite. Because crossover, it's just that's it, and then you've got stuff like progressive metal, which you're seeing like 8, 9, 10 minute songs as a fucking standard, which I think it would be really cool to kind of see how much we can make those two meld together, those two almost polar opposite like
yeah.
worlds of music. I think it'd be sick to hear that. And bringing up Fatal Collision, that's another fantastic segue. How did Fatal Collision come about, and how did you end up getting involved in it?
So Hughes and Grum are like two of my best friends, like, and have been for like the best part, like every part of like 10 years. So I was so Fatal Collision's technically been about for about 10 years, but the ball never really got rolling until like maybe 2017, 2018. But like I was always kind of involved in some way, shape, or form. And obviously over the years the lineups like changed. Um yeah, no, we had like I think our first demo was actually a college project for Grum because he was doing sound engineering at the time, and I think he had to like do a multi-track recording, so he recorded like our demo pretty much. And truthfully, it's not brilliant, and I think they'd all agree with it. But it was like our first sort of like stamping our name. It was like this is who we are. We're here. And then it was a year later of just practicing with the lineup that we had, and finally getting on shows. Started playing shows in like 2018. I think our first show was also Tempered's first show. So us and Tempered kind of at the same time, like, you know, came about, and that was when the whole like thrash scene was like had like a bit of a revival, a bit of a renaissance around about that time. And it still kind of is to an extent, like with us, us Tempered, Night Fighter, Hard Stare, and stuff like that. Basically, the Thrashed in Half lineup that happened earlier this year and is happening again later this year. Um, yeah, so it was just pretty much just grinding away. Obviously, lineup changes, but then post COVID, I think like the quality of output and just the quality of like the shows has definitely like improved drastically. Like the lineup we have now is like the best lineup that we have, and I think like that's the lineup that's going to stick because Cammy and Steph like they really bring a lot to the table with like influences, just like playing their instruments, and like having the two guitars now because I was like starting to get more into like playing guitar, especially like that sort of fast, thrashy, like hardcore sort of stuff. Um, it was like we just kind of wanted to push it into a new direction, and I think it's definitely going to pay dividends when we eventually do get around to like releasing new music. And the run of shows that we've had this year, like we've been like really happy with. So, uh, yeah, no, it's just basically Fatal's always just been like mates just getting together, writing tunes that we like certainly, and excuse me, yeah, that's pretty much just that. It's just hanging out with your mates, writing sick tunes, and people seem to love it.
I know I do. That's the way to do it because that's the most genuine, pure place that any music can come from is just a bunch of people that like the same stuff getting together, writing what they want to hear. Because if you like what you're hearing, then you're going to love playing it, and that energy is going to radiate on stage. Because there's nothing worse than going and seeing a band that just likes their that looks like they're there just going, oh, look at me, I'm fucking boring. When's dinner? Can I fucking go eat now? You know.
No,
Like,
exactly. I know what you mean, and like I see it all the time, and like it's like yeah, you see it all the time, especially like local shows. Like certainly like back in the day, like it would just be like the same fucking bands playing the same venue. It's usually like an Ivory Black thing. There'd be a six band bill, and it would just be the same thing. But now there is like a lot of diversity now. Within metal and hardcore as well. Like the last few years, hardcore has been like fucking like really like I've never always been the biggest hardcore guy, but the last few years I've been really getting into it and just seeing the fucking quality of the music just going up. And certainly bringing that style into Fatal. Like we're all big fans of like Drain and Pest Control and Speed and stuff like that. So we're all sort of taking elements of that and like putting it into the music that we already have because it's already kind of a melting pot of like influences. And I think that's a big strength of ours is that we can play like on a punk show, on like a thrash show, on a hardcore show. Like the last three shows that we've done, like last night we supported Solitary, just your straight up sort of thrash metal. A few weeks before that, we were on the Mosh Fest, like a hardcore all day. And then a few weeks before that, we played Crammond Island of Punk. So that's like three sort of very different, diverse shows. But we seemed to fit the bill like for all of them. And it's having that diversity that I think's like a really big like benefit. Like one of my favorite bands at the moment is Conjurer, and like they have that in spades. Like they could go on like a road burn and then play like Bloodstock and then even play like a download and stuff like that. So I really like stuff like that, and it kind of goes into the mixed bill thing that I was talking about earlier on. It's just there's nothing wrong with diversity, man.
no, not at all. And again, I'm definitely one of those people that, like, don't get me wrong, I love my blast beats and stupid monster noises, but hearing four or five of the same thing, it's like by the end of it, by the time the headliner comes on, I'm like, I want to fucking go to bed. I'm sleepy now because
Yeah,
I'm getting old and fucking my body hurts and, all that fun shit.
I'm
So,
definitely starting to feel that now. Like this year was the first year. So I like the festivals I went to this year. I went to Bloodstock, and then like a week, and then like a few days later, I went to Arc Tangent, and I've been doing that for the last few years. And this was the first year where I like felt it. Like I was like by like the second or third day at Arc Tangent, I was like, I'm so fucking tired. I'm just run down. There was a lot of traveling that week as well. To be fair, just and it was like weird as well because that's the first year that I've not like went back up to Glasgow in between festivals. I just stayed with my girlfriend. Um, but yeah, no, I was just don't get me wrong, I had a brilliant time, but it's like I think it is just an age thing, sort of catching up with me now. And then even like weekday gigs, I'm just like I'll get work in the morning. Like I need to get up at 6 in the morning for work. Like I'm
Oh, I
tired.
can painfully relate to that. The amount
It's
of times
horrible,
where
man.
I've had a gig at night and then because whoever seems to do the rotas where I work just doesn't seem to like me taking so many days for gigs. And it's like, I'll just stick him in a wee 6 o'clock in the morning start shift. And I'm like, you bastard.
Yeah, it's like I hope you enjoy your fucking show. And it's
Hey, you're
like,
in at 6 o'clock the fucking morning, bro. Oh,
oh man.
that's
Do you
why we
work
do it.
like a rota thing or are you like Monday to Friday? Or
I wrote us, I get 4 weeks in advance, and like they are usually very accommodating because again, I can say like I'm fine to work during the day. I just can't work till fucking 8 p.m. because by the time I finish work, get changed, get to Glasgow, which takes roughly about an hour, depending on
yeah,
like what trains I get on and stuff, and then get to the venue, it's like I'll have missed half the performance, and half the time
exactly.
I'm going for the fucking support bands because I have no idea who they are, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's like because I see you at like all the shows, like you're always front and center for like pretty much the entire show. I
It's
don't know
not
how you do
healthy,
it, man.
but it's not healthy because usually as soon as the show ends, I'm like, my back's fucked, I'm thirsty, I need to pee because
I know.
once I've got my spot at the barrier, I am like there until the fucking end
Yeah,
because
I
I am
admire it, man.
sad.
I admire the dedication.
I can't
Like,
I can't help it. There's just so many amazing bands that are rolling through here, whether you're playing fucking Barrowlands or you're playing the wee tiny room at Slay, like not the big room, but the tiny
yeah,
room, like the fucking like Penny Coffin EP release, like that kind
I
of
was at that
thing.
show.
That was such a fun show.
Oh, it was
Wee tiny
great.
fucking room and you had coffin mulch in there. I'm genuinely surprised Al didn't just end up yeeting himself into that back fucking wall.
Yeah, because I've seen him do it plenty of times in plenty of shows, like from like Audio Lounge to Mash House in Edinburgh. Like the guy loves it, man. Don't
I
get me
think
wrong, if
he
I was like a front man, like and I only had like the handheld mic, like I would be doing that as well. Like I think I'd be like very much doing it like Greg from Dillinger Escape Plan. Like I'm fine 1 minute and then I'm just like because there's that one clip where he's just like walking on stage and then he just runs, like just sprints into the crowd and like over people's head and all that. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to hurt anyone, but you know, it's just that it's that energy mixed with the Dillinger Escape Plans music as well, and how like erratic and just frenetic it all was. Yeah, it's
it's
like I'd
like
probably be doing stuff like that.
I mean, to be fair, with like all the kind of wireless technology and stuff, you could do it. Would
That
it
is
be
true,
worth
yeah.
it?
Like
I don't
that is
know.
true. Like maybe one day I'll invest in like wireless gear. Again, Conjurer, another example. Connor, the bassist, he's always like going into the crowd at the end of the set. Always getting like crowd surfed and that, and just going in and headbanging. Yeah, it's and then Ali from Tyrannus as well. He's got the wireless, so during the bass break and what's the song again? I think it's either It Taketh or I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm sure one of the guys will let me know. But yeah, it's like seeing him going into the crowd and doing that. It definitely like it adds to like the atmosphere and again like the whole like that sort of like slow build, slow burn adrenaline like coming out. It
And
just
when
adds to it.
everything
Just
just
builds
like
and builds
pops
and builds,
off,
and then it's
it's
just
like, oh yeah. It's like seeing Slay just fucking erupt when Hellripper came on the other day. It
yeah,
was like the crowd surfing had already started since fucking Tempered started. And it just kept getting faster and faster. And then Hellripper came on and it was boom, there it is.
yeah. It was like kerosene match, boom, like fucking slate. Like that was. I think that was probably the best Hellripper set that I've seen, and I've told the guys that as well. It was fantastic. Again, said it earlier on. All the credit, like they deserve all the success they've gotten, man. Um, and that was a really good show as well. And to see like Tempered and Disposable, support them as well.
Definitely.
Always a good time. Always a great time seeing those guys. And yeah, no, just a great show overall. The crowd were fucking electric. I never knew Slay was only like I say only like I never knew it was a 500 cap room.
I
as
think
well.
they like I'm fairly sure they kind of inflate the numbers a wee bit, or they're assuming that like the X capacity is when everybody is like condensed like a fucking sardine can or some shit,
Yeah,
which sometimes it can feel like that. I'm not going to lie to you. There's been
mate,
times where I've been in Slay and it's like, fuck me, I can't move.
mate, the Liquid Rooms in Edinburgh is the worst venue for that. Like, fuck that place. Dude, if there was a fire in there, I genuinely don't like people's chances. Uh, like, because me and my partner, we went to go and see Slow Dive in there earlier this year,
Mhm.
and we were like squashed in, like we could barely move, and like the it's kind of the same sort of layout as Slay, where it's like you walk out, you take a right, and then it's like up a staircase. It took us about 10, maybe even 15 minutes to like leave that venue because of how squashed it was. Like, I think the show was like oversold because they played the Barrowlands the night before, but it was sold out. So that's why we went to the Edinburgh show. And Slow Dive were great, but like being so cramped in there and it was like warm and just you could barely move. Like even taking your jacket off was a tall task.
And as we all
Um,
know, metalheads are infamous for not investing in deodorant.
oh God, I know. Well, thankfully this was a shoegaze show, so it was like a bit better smelling.
Slightly better smelling.
But I think the amalgamation of just people being cramped in with each other and the body heat just like created that perspiration, man. It was just, oh man,
Oh
it
yeah.
actually kind of took away from the enjoyment a wee bit. Like I felt like I couldn't really invest myself in watching Slow Dive,
Mhm.
just because it was just so cramped. So hopefully next time I see them, it will be like a bigger, like more spacious venue. Like I would have went to that Barrowlands show, but it sold out like that.
Kind of
Uh,
weird how they went from like because I don't know exactly the capacity of the liquid rooms because I only went there once and it was to see Dragon Force, which I know. I'm sorry. There goes all of
hey,
my
hey,
fucking metal credit.
there's nothing wrong with Dragon Force. Do not worry about it.
I love Dragon Force, and actually one of my core memories is I actually got the meet and greet with them, and I had my old battle vest at the time, and you just see Sam going, "Don't know who they are, don't know who they are. They're all right. They're shit, they're shit, they're shit." That's such a I don't know why, but I absolutely love that memory. Makes me laugh to this day. I wish
Brilliant.
I didn't give my old battle vest away. I'm so upset.
Uh, did you like sell it or was it?
No, I gave it to an ex of mine at the time to sew, and I just never saw that shit again.
Oh shit, man. I'm sorry to hear, man.
I'm working in a new one. I'm working in a new one. My girlfriend's just taking fucking forever. But
Ah, fair enough.
this one's pretty much everything that isn't like death and black metal. So there's a lot of like there's some hardcore in there, there's some thrash, there's some power metal because I'm one of those weirdos that likes power metal. A lot of the classic stuff in there, like your Maidens, your Black Sabbaths and all that.
Yeah.
Um, so can't wait to wear that, and it'll actually fit me this time because I had a pull the plug patches vest that was an XL, and it's basically a cape.
All right.
The Patch Crusader.
Yeah,
Genuinely
like
surprised I haven't done that.
the battle jacket thing was like one that I wanted to do when I was younger. But I'd never got around to it. I'd like bought a couple of patches for it, but I never got around to it. And it just I think by the time I was just kind of like, oh, I can't really be bothered anymore because it's quite a big investment to like do that sort of stuff. Like you see like the people like the European festivals, they've got like the long like trench coat ones, and it's like patches all the way down. It's like,
It's
dude, how
hard,
long?
but fucking hell, your fingers must just be like by the end of it.
Early onset arthritis with the constant.
Oh
Nah,
no.
nowadays I just find myself sewing patches onto hats. Like I've like I made an Aphex Twin hat recently just because it's like I never see any of his merch anywhere. I'm like, I want a piece of Aphex Twin merch because I love Aphex Twin.
That's another thing. You guys have been like killing it with the merch game. Somewhere I do have the pink Cadaver logo shirt, which I just love. I love when bands do something that's like outside of the norms. Like here, have a
Yeah.
bright pink fucking t-shirt. And then there was that grey long sleeve that I got as well. So obviously new release
They're both
coming
hanging
up.
up on my door right now. Like all the band merch that I own from Cadaver and Fatal, I don't put them in drawers. Like I hang them up on my door.
See, look, I did all this. If you ever get like vinyls made and shit, I fully see you just having a wall with everything that you've done.
Yeah, it's like even like just beside me just now is the wee cassette of Flesh Monstrosity. I don't even have a cassette player, but I wanted it just like the physical. It's broke as well, so I probably couldn't sell it anyway. But I wanted just like that physical, like I did that sort. Well, we did that sort of thing.
It's never a bad thing to have, especially in the kind of digital age where everything's on Bandcamp or SoundCloud or YouTube or whatever. There's
Yeah,
still a place for physical media, I think. Like I have a wee stack of vinyl that's mainly old metal records. But if I am going to pick up a physical, it's going to be vinyl. It's the superior format.
yeah. Like I'd like made a start on collecting vinyl when I was younger, but again, it was kind of like the patches thing as well. It was just like and probably to like a much grander scale because it is a big financial investment being a record collector,
Mhm.
as you probably know as well.
Oh yes.
It's and even buying them at gigs and like festivals, like you're having to carry them around a lot, and it's just it is a big financial investment. But like if it's a passion of yours to have like physical media, then all the power to you. I remember before one of the few vinyls that I like went out my way for was at the time, and still kind of to an extent, Tesseract's debut album One was my favorite album like of all time. I've got it tattooed on my arm. Um, just because that was kind of without sounding too like I guess cheesy or pretentious. That kind of like it was like that unlocked my mind. That like really opened doors for like me getting into other types of music and like like the ambient sort of electronic sort of textures like really put
Mm.
me onto like ambient and eventually electronic music. Obviously, it's a progressive metal album as well. Um, and it like made me more open to the idea of like music with predominantly clean singing because it's very few and far between when Daniel Tompkins screams on that album. And yeah, just at the time, it just completely blew the doors wide open. So it's still a very important album to me. So I wanted that on vinyl. And also, up until like 5 years ago, King Crimson never had like their like music on online or anything. Like Robert Fripp would immediately get that shit shut down. If there was like a YouTube video of like the full album stream, it would last like a day before it was down. So I was like, right, I want to get In the Court of the Crimson King on vinyl just so I can like listen to it whenever I want. And then obviously, a few like maybe like less than a year after I bought it, like all of King Crimson's music ended up on like streaming because I think it was like the 50th anniversary of the band or something. So like it all get uploaded. So I was kind of just like, oh, okay, I can listen to it whenever I want now.
Yeah, but at least you can like hold this thing up and stare at the artwork because it's fucking incredible artwork.
Oh, it's it's like one of my favorite pieces of art and just artwork in general. Yeah, it's like, and that's the thing as well. Like, that's definitely that's something I can understand as well with record collectors. It's like it is like the art and like the layout of it all. Like,
Hmm.
it is a big selling point. Like, I know, like if Cadaver and Fatal, if we ever get like physicals, we are probably gonna have like one each. Um, Especially with the artwork. I can't wait for people to see it because we Cadaver do have the artwork for the album, the release.
Oh,
It could be
he
could be
spilled it. He spilled it,
Leprechaun.
lads. None of this gets cut, by the way, so you fucked it.
Oh, man. Did you like censor that, man? Like one of those beep.
Nope.
But
It's fine.
ah,
It's buried like halfway through. Who has the attention span for a fucking podcast anyway?
I don't know, man. I've listened to some of your episodes in full, mate. Don't worry. I do a lot. I do a lot. I do a lot of commuting, mate. When you're in a long distance relationship, it's a lot of commuting.
It's
But
props to making that happen, man. Genuinely, it's one of the hardest things that you can do.
it is difficult, but it's every time I see Ellie, it's worth it. So shout out to Ellie. I love you.
Oh, see, look at this man, so humble. He loves his girl. That's what we want to see more of. None of this toxic masculinity shit. Admit that you like your girl. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
I love my girlfriend. I shout her out fucking constantly. Nothing wrong
Amazing.
with it at all.
Exactly. Love the bird. Love me bands. Simple as.
Exactly. That's what we want to see. Get me doing that fucking
That's
stupid
it. Just
Guildford accent.
reaching back and pulling everyone else up with you.
Right, exact. That's what you want, and that's what people, and that's what I love about the scene as well, is everybody's shouting each other out and just supporting each other and playing with each other. And it's something that, and I've said this a few times, it's something that I never thought I'd get to witness because, being born in the age of the internet, the kind of everybody being a big community and like tape trading and all that, like that was something I discussed at length with Al, was
Yeah,
just how different it was. Like everybody's trading tapes and trading records and all that kind of stuff. It's something that I never thought I'd get to be a part of, which I suppose I am in a way because everybody's like sharing each other's Bandcamp page or their Spotify or whatever. The method is the same, but the means have changed. But it's still cool to see that we still have that same kind of old school mindset of, at
yeah,
least I know I do, whenever I'm looking at, like, say, on my Apple Music page, it's like I'm listening to a band, you scroll down and it's like, here's a bunch of people you might like. So I'm like, hey, their name sounds mint. That album cover looks fucking sick. So I'm gonna listen to it. Oh my God, unlock my mind. Boom. Fucking new
new
favorite
band,
band.
new music. It's yeah, that's like the internet age. It has its benefits and its drawbacks. Like the benefits is like it's easy to access like great music from like all aspects of music, but like as well, it's like you mentioned, like the sense of community sort of thing as well. Like certainly online, like online communities, yeah, but it's like it's so easy to like not be part of something because you could just be perpetually online. And it's like the human interaction sort of like I'm very social in person, but
Mhm.
online like I don't always like talk or like I take ages to reply and stuff. I'm quite guilty of it, and I do anyone that tries to get a hold of me, I do apologize. I will get back to you eventually, but um yeah, like it's easy to sort of like shelter yourself from the real world because of like the internet and like I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say.
It's the kind of old man speaking, well, it's too much time on the screen and fucking
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. It's
But
back
it's
in my
fine.
Bob seeing each other. It's like and all that jazz.
It's good to find an important balance, but if it wasn't for like the internet, I wouldn't have found any of the bands that I'd have
Oh
found
yeah,
because I'm from the kind of age group where I found music by just watching YouTube videos. Like I'm watching this random game that I like, and they've got sick music in the background. That's how I found Disturbed, and
yeah,
then it
like
just
those
kind
like
of
gameplay videos where it would be like just like a Linkin Park song over like a Call of Duty montage or something like that.
I do love me those cheesy Call of Duty montages. We need
Yeah,
more of
man.
that shit. Hopefully now that Black Ops 6 isn't fucking trash, hopefully we'll
Are
get
they
that.
are they on six now?
6 Black Ops games, and honestly, I played the beta. It's the first time I've had fun in a COD game since Cold War.
Jesus, man. The last Black Ops I played was free and I only bought it for zombies, but the zombies was wank, so I was like, I'm selling this.
I like it, but I think it's just like what made it fun for me was stuff like Black Ops 1, World at War, Black Ops 2 as well. That kind of, you still felt very grounded, and I'm not
Yeah.
shooting
I think Black
fucking
Ops is like the
lasers.
first Black Ops is still my favorite Call of Duty game.
I still
Certainly the
play
one
it
that I've played
regularly.
the most.
It hit everything that you would want in a COD game, and it was just good at everything. The campaign, fucking brilliant. Multiplayer, fucking brilliant. Zombies, absolutely class.
Oh
Whereas
yeah.
every other COD that's came after it, it usually excelled in like one area, but then everything else was complete trash. Like Black Ops 3 Zombies, a lot of people love that, but then you have the campaign that was just boring and fucking train go boom. Or like
Yeah, I feel
fucking
like
Ghosts.
I'm not really much of a gamer, but I feel like that's a lot of like games nowadays where it's like there is a lot of like shit you need to swallow before you
Oh
can
yeah.
actually like enjoy the game and stuff. Or there's a lot of like critiques. Like even like I was even thinking about this the other day. It seems like graphics in games nowadays are like they're almost like too good to the point where it's like it takes away from it. Like there's no like charm. Like you go back and play a PS2 game, there's like the charm of like, oh look at these graphics, man. But like, fuck me, man, this is nostalgia.
Oh, it
I
is.
don't know. It's weird. It's kind of a weird sort of thought process, but yeah, and as well, the price of some of these games now is just it's too fucking much.
It's too much, and also the games are coming out either a third complete or they're just completely fundamentally broken.
Yeah, like I remember, like I think it was a WWE game, like 2K20, and it was just full of glitches and just the game was like the gameplay was
Oh,
terrible.
it
I
was
think
so jank,
production.
honestly. I remember seeing gameplay of it, and you just see all these pixels being fucking stretched out across the screen. It's like, I can't play this. I can't even look at this. It's fucking
Yeah, it's physically
disgusting.
unplayable. Like, uh, like because I think was it not like the production company like dropped out halfway through it or something, or like
I don't know. I don't really pay attention to a lot of the kind of wrestling stuff, but there's definitely been, it's a problem across pretty much every genre of game. You look at games like fucking Fallout 76, because I loved Fallout 4, so I thought, oh, perpetually online, fucking open world Fallout, oh, that'll be good. Nope, completely unplayable. Servers were empty. Everything was trash.
yeah.
Literally unplayable. I was like, no, I'm not fucking playing it. Not a fucking chance.
It's shit, man. Especially if it's like a long running series that you are a fan of,
Oh
and
yeah,
then to like see it like lose its luster, you're kind of just like, oh man, like that's shit. But yeah,
it
like
definitely is.
yeah, like I said, I'm not really that much of a gamer. Like I've got games, I never really, I never have the time, and if I have the time, I don't have the effort. You know what I mean?
Oh no, I'm the same because usually I'm either at work with my girlfriend doing this, sleeping, at gigs. I never really get a chance to just sit down and fucking play a game. But
Yeah,
I'm trying to because it is fun and there's like a game I'm excited for Black Ops 6, but again I'm like, is this going to be bad? I know the beta was good, but who's to say that when the full game comes out, it's not completely unplayable trash, which
yeah. Which is
is
like I said, it's something that you tend to hear more of these days. Like you tend to hear more of that these days. That's it's just not really playable.
patching in basic features like fucking Vanguard when zombies came out, you couldn't pause it. Like you just straight
Yeah,
up, you just couldn't pause it. It's like it's a pause button. Fucking
yeah.
Atari 2600 had a pause button. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
This
it's
was
like
in the 80s.
how can you physically play a game and not be able to pause it? Like that boggles my mind. I didn't even know that.
It was insane. Eventually they fixed it, but it's like you shouldn't be shipping your game until it's fundamentally working. Or
Yeah,
if you're going to do some kind of crack shit like fucking Halo Infinite did, where, oh, you get to play the multiplayer 2 weeks early and it was jank, it was broken, there was no playlists, there was no XP, all these kind of like the fundamental shit that's been in Halo since it fucking came out in 2001, they just
yeah,
weren't there. And then they sold the campaign to you separately. The multiplayer was free, but the campaign was still the same price of a full game.
yeah. That's weird.
Why? It's like,
Yeah,
and the campaign
it's
was
like
crap anyway.
and then the game eventually like you kind of almost go into it with all these like, well, this is working, this is working, and then it's almost like you've subconsciously went in with the preconceived notion of, well, this is just not gonna like meet the fucking mark.
No, no, because one of my favorite like Halo games was Halo Reach back in fucking 2010, which makes me feel old now.
Shame that.
And it was so good. Every time you get to that epilogue screen where it's just like current objective, survive, and you just know you're fucked. There's no
Oh
chance.
yeah,
You're dead. That's it.
yeah. You're just like taking a swig of the Mountain Dew. Let's go.
Let's go. You're still there an hour later, but the same thing happens. You still get knocked out. You get that cutscene where he takes off his helmet and tries his hardest, but then just gets kicked the fuck down and gets stabbed. And you just cut to seeing the helmet in the glassed planet. Everything's on fire. The visor's cracked. Incredible scene. Where's the passion?
Nostalgia, man.
Like, where's the passion for that kind of game now, man? I'm so
Yeah, no, it's
upset.
almost like I guess it's kind of a thing with like gaming series is like, Call of Duty and FIFA and stuff like that. It's like, oh, we need to get a new one out every year. Like, it's like things almost feel a bit rushed.
I think rushed
And
is the
then,
nicest way of doing it.
yeah. And then by that same token as well, it's like you mentioned, like they tried like releasing the multiplayer free and like doing the campaign separate. And it's like sometimes you just don't need to break things to fix them.
You would think,
Like,
you would think.
yeah, you don't need to break it. You know what I mean? Like some things work just because they do.
And like prime example with Call of Duty when they did all the Modern Warfare remakes, it's like, why? The original trilogy was fucking perfect. What are you
Yeah,
doing?
just put out like don't remake it, just put out like a remastered version of it or something.
Well, they did that with COD 4,
Yeah,
But then they did like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, and then Modern Warfare 2, and Modern Warfare 3, and somehow Makarov in Modern Warfare 3 from last year looks worse than he did in 2011. Fucking how do you do that?
yeah, it's crazy.
It's so
I guess it
dumb.
goes back to what I was saying earlier about like graphics trying to be like so good and so realistic that they end up just looking
The
like I don't know,
gameplay
like
suffers.
AI or something.
The gameplay suffers as well because yeah, it looks pretty, but it's not fun to play it.
Exactly.
I'd just be watching a film. The gameplay is not fun. Prime example, one of the my favorite games of all time, Left 4 Dead 2. Are the graphics great? No. Is the gameplay fun? Fucking absolutely. They have
Yeah,
fucking nailed it. Where's Left 4 Dead 3?
bring it out. Come on.
Do it, Valve. Finish a trilogy for once in your lives. We just want one trilogy to be completed. Back for Blood does not count.
Exactly.
It does not
Uh,
count. It is terrible. But that's I could host a fucking like I do a separate podcast for fucking gaming news, which I think I might. It actually sounds kind of appealing to be honest, but
Also, if you bring like, because like I said, I'm not really much of a gamer, so if you have like guests on it that are like well versed in that sort of stuff, and I'm sure there's plenty of people in the scene that are like
oh yeah, because one
keen.
thing I've noticed with like metal music is that everybody's a nerd for something. Whether
Yeah,
it's like a lot of it's horror movies, you get a few people that like wrestling, you get people that like Magic the Gathering and stuff. I mean, me, I never really got into Magic the Gathering as such, but I am a big, massive Yu-Gi-Oh fan, which I know
yeah.
there
I've
off
got
goes
friends that
all
like
my
Magic the Gathering.
credibility. But I think there's a lot of crossover there, and that's another reason why I like the genre and the people in it. Well, most of them is that we're all just nerds, and it's
Yeah,
great.
exactly.
Well,
It's like we've all found a niche, and to meet like-minded people that have that niche as well, it's always a great feeling. And then it like ignites your passion more as well because you see how passionate other people are, and you learn things from it. You like
definitely.
learn different perspectives.
Exactly. It's like the whole thing of variety is the spice of life. If you surround yourself in an echo chamber, you don't really grow, you don't really learn anything, you don't really become a better person.
Exactly. And there is a plenty of people out there that will just want to do that. Like they won't want to listen to you unless it's something they agree with, and it's just,
It's not
like you said,
healthy.
right, you know, if we it's the age old thing, but it's true. If we were all the same, the world would be boring.
Oh, it really would be. But I mean that was a kind of massive tangent, but that's what I love about doing this is obviously it's the same kind of stuff in the beginning, but where it goes after that, fuck knows.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like free form, which is good.
Exactly, because if you want fucking like question answer, go fucking watch Loudwire or some shit. Which I mean, respect to them. I'd love to be at that level where I can have interviews in person. I could just get like a big fucking batch pad and like have a desk with a bunch of microphones like Chris Garza does from Suicide Silence. That's something
Yeah,
I would love to actually have these people in the room. Because one, it means we don't have to deal with Zoom's fucking bullshit, but also you're in person and the idea of this was to just kind of have that like you're a fly in the wall of a bunch of pals just shooting the shit. That's the
exactly.
that's the kind of vibe I've always wanted, and I think I've done all right in achieving that. But having
I
an
would.
actual room with everyone in it, I think that would just make it better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It really does. Like, because Fatal, we've had like the podcast before as well, which will come back eventually. But it is just like sitting in a room with your pals, maybe having a couple of drinks, just shooting the shit. That's it. And then it's that human interaction as well. Like you feed off each other's sort of like energy and stuff like that. Like obviously over Zoom it works as well, but it can only work to a certain extent.
Yeah, definitely, and it's always better when everybody's in the room, especially because there isn't that kind of weird delay. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
fun, and
absolutely.
I'm definitely going to keep doing it. But so, kind of wrapping things up here, been a very busy year for Fatal, very busy year for Rancid Cadaver. Obviously, more shows in the pipeline. Got a bunch of gigs coming up towards the end of the year, which I'll have the everything Rancid Cadaver, everything Fatal Collision linked down below. The Instagram, the Bandcamp, you can see what shows are coming up and stuff. New
Thank you
music
very
coming
much.
from both sides. Is there anything in particular that you want to share on those, like upcoming shows, upcoming music before we wrap up?
Yeah, man. So Fatal Collision, the year's looking pretty busy. We've got gigs. We've got a couple of gigs in October. Headlining the Flying Duck, October 20th with Speeder. a Swedish thrash band. Night Fighter and Luxera. Night Fighter, of course, being our friends, and Luxera, young thrash band on the up and up. We're also supporting Zealous Chieftains on October 2nd, a nice midweek payday gig. So if anyone's about for that, come on down. Rancid Cadaver, of course, our last show of the year, with Coffin Mulch, Scordatura, and Jaundice at the Mash House. Big old Scottish death metal, massive lineup in the Mash House, another great venue. Um, Capital, you gotta love it, man. You gotta love it. And I'm particularly excited to be playing a show with Scordatura because I fucking love Scordatura.
I do love
And
them as well.
especially because the shows like are kind of few and far between on their ends now, so it'll be a nice one. Of course, I mentioned Thrashed in Half earlier on the over on the Fatal side. We're running that show as well at the end of the year. Uh, I'll be doing double duty that night for the first time because I'm filling in for Hardstare. Also filling in for Hardstare this weekend at Gerald Fest. So I don't know when this is going to come out, but September 28th for the Flying Duck. If you're there, fucking A, man. Let's give the big man the send off that he deserves before he moves to pastures new in New Zealand.
Halfway across the planet, man, for a much weaker metal scene. Just saying. Just
I
saying.
mean, if there's anyone that can bolster it, if there's anyone that can bolster it, it's Big Gerald.
He's gonna do the exact same shit through there. And next thing you know,
Oh
we're
yeah,
gonna have some fucking competition because the only band I know from fucking New Zealand is Organectomy. So,
yeah, exactly.
Gerald, get over there, get them sorted, give them instruments, get them forming bands, man.
Absolutely, man. Music, um, soon come.
Soon come.
That's all I'll
Music
say.
soon come. Ooga booga. Love
Brilliant, man.
it. Love it. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. This will probably go up, like obviously when you're seeing this, it will be uploaded. Fucking, that's how the internet works. But I've got another episode coming out Tuesday, so this one will probably come out probably Friday, maybe Thursday, probably Friday. So it'll be
Yeah,
before the 28th. So get down there. If you're around the area and any of these shows and you want to go and see an absolute fucking brilliant man and some brilliant bands, fucking do it. Honestly, you will not regret seeing this man live. I've never regretted it once.
my man. Thank you very much. And a huge shout out to Cracking the Shell. Keep supporting the podcast as well. Thank you very much for having me, John. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you made it through to the end, I really appreciate it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, feed the algorithm machine. Everything for Ross Dunn, for Rancid Cadaver, for Fatal Collision, and who knows, he might have a fucking solo jazz bass project one day, who knows. But everything will be down below. Support this man, support the scene. There's loads of cool shit happening, and there's only going to be more cool shit happening. And I'm going to be here to wax lyrical on all of it. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Adios.